And we're underway right at 8 o'clock. Hey, slappers. It's Coach Sarah, and I'm super excited to just sort of talk through. Um, oh, Erica, can you hit mute on yours, please?
Sure.
Super excited to talk through St. Anthony's, and just go through some things. It's one of my favorite races um, in Florida, and I look forward to being out there. And if anybody didn't know, I'm actually going to be towing the start line this year, which is going to be a fun thing to do. Um, so there's a lot to talk about. Um, and I want to just try and make this less than 30 minutes. So I'm going to go through it in a timeline order and just run through
All
it.
right, you got her labels. I'm going to put her on registration
Yes.
while we.
Go mute. And I'm just going to go through it in timeline order, and we'll start with Wednesday. Wednesday, we have Winning Wednesday because that's our favorite thing to do before doing a race is head out to open water at Waterfront Park. So that'll be 6 o'clock on Wednesday, and we're going to do open water swim and run practice. And then we always follow that up with team social at Sun Creek Brewery downtown where we get dinners and drinks and celebrate the fact that we're going to go race hard on the weekend. I'm looking forward to getting the season started. That'll be our first winning Wednesday of the year, and then a nice team social. That moves us forward to Friday on race week. This is where it's really important that you start getting yourself mentally and physically ready for race day. So on Friday is when we start thinking about like hydrating and just making sure that we're staying hydrated, carrying a water bottle around with us. You can think about slightly increasing your electrolytes because this is going to be a hot one out there. And that just means like maybe salt your food at lunch and dinner and just add a little bit more electrolytes. If you have any sort of drink mix, you can add that to your water bottle and just have like diluted sports drink, but start intaking your electrolytes. Friday's a good time if you haven't done it already to go through your gear and start getting packed for race day. And what that's going to consist of is like just thinking through swim, bike, run, and what's all the equipment that you need, and making sure that you have it all, first of all, and that you have it all packed. And for me, I'm not entirely sure if I own a number belt, a race belt anymore. So that's something that I'm going to have to go figure out if I have and see if I can locate one. Um, St. Anthony's, the expo there on Friday and Saturday is absolutely fantastic. So if you happen to not be able to find any piece of equipment because it's race day and it's the start of the season, you can get something at the expo on Friday or Saturday. So super easy. Um, you need to look over your bike by Friday at the latest so that in case you have any issues, you can get those taken care of. Things that you want to look at is like charging your bike's electric battery. You might want to charge your Garmin. You might want to check your power meter battery. So going through all sort of those charging things because it's the 21st century and everything has a battery and a charging cord. Some other things you might want to look over on your bike is just sort of pick your bike up and roll through the front and back tires really, really carefully and sort of looking at all the rubber. First of all, to make sure that your tires are in good condition and they're not completely worn down or balding, which would be at risk for a flat tire on race day. But you also want to check the whole way around on both your front and back tires for any holes or cuts or anything poking into or out of your tire that hasn't caused it to be a flat yet but might be a flat soon if you keep riding it. If you're somebody that's riding tubeless tires, you might want to check your sealant levels and make sure that you have plenty of sealant in there so you can get through the race without issues. Friday's a good opportunity to clean your chain and your cassette and maybe just wipe down your bike because any bit of speed gained is a great opportunity to go faster in the race. So a clean chain and a clean cassette roll smoother on your bike. So if you just sort of wipe those down a little bit with some degreaser and then lube it up afterwards, it's going to go faster on race day. The other thing you might want to do with your bike is just make sure that it's set up for race day. I know some people switch out their wheels for race wheels or maybe disc wheels. Maybe you need to mount an aero bottle or a different kind of hydration system on there for race day. And then you might want to remove any extra stuff since this is only a sprint or an Olympic. If you're somebody that carries like a bento box on it for long distance riding, maybe you're not carrying that for Olympic distance. So that's sort of what you really need to wait no later than Friday to do is get all of your stuff and gear ready. And then if you do happen to be in St. Pete on Friday, you can do check-in and packet pickup between 12 and 6 p.m. at the expo on Friday if you want to just knock that out of the way and be ready to go. That brings us to Saturday, which for me and the mini slappers, which I see one over there, high ender, that is Meek and Mighty race morning. So the Meek and Mighty athletes are starting, I believe at 7:30 at the North Shore Pool. So that's an early morning. If you have a spouse or a friend or a family member that isn't doing anything, race wise, that needs to rest. The Meek and Mighty race is looking for volunteers. So if they want to get out and watch, a couple hundred of the cutest kids racing really fast, that's an awesome opportunity on Saturday morning. I'll be there with the kids all morning, and their awards, I believe, are somewhere around 10 or 11 o'clock over at the main stage, which is by the expo, which is at the expo area. And at noon, the expo opens back up for the St. Anthony's race the next day. So you can check in on Saturday between 12 and 5 p.m., get your packet, get your wristband put on your wrist, get your bike numbers, your helmet numbers, your bib numbers, your timing chip. You have to have all those things in order to put your bike into transition. So make sure that you do your check-in first. You don't have to do any body marking or tattoos in this race. You just have to make sure that that wristband stays on your wrist until you collect your bike out of transition after the race. Now, they'll keep transition closed until most of the sprint and Olympic distance athletes are done and off their bike on Sunday. So when you finish the race, don't get antsy and rip off your wristband because you're going to need to show that wristband with the number on it in order to exit transition with your bike. Or they're going to eBay your bikes afterwards. So keep your wristband on, and then just realize that after you finish your race on Sunday, you're not going to immediately be able to sort of just book it out of the race venue. So make sure that you have some post-race change of clothes, some sunscreen, a hat. The post-race food provided by the race is fantastic, but just know that you're going to take a little bit of time before you can get your bike and gear out of transition. So heading back to Saturday on our timeline, you can leave your bike in transition area on Saturday at 5 p.m. at the latest, or you can bring it in on Sunday morning while transition's open. You're going to see that most people like to leave their bike there the night before just because parking is sort of a hassle on race morning, and you might end up late and rushing, and you don't really want to have to worry about getting your bike in there in the dark. So I'm going to leave my bike there the night before and just leave it overnight and come in with the rest of my stuff on race morning. Whatever way you choose to do is perfectly fine. Once you've done that, or before you do check in on Saturday, head on down at 2 p.m. for the slap swim at the start beach. I'm going to have one of our big team feather flags stuck at the start beach. So just look for that along shore. And then, of course, look for the bunch of slappers around 2 p.m. Putting all their gear on. Now, we are getting in the water for multiple reasons to practice being in salt water if you haven't been in salt water before, to practice with the waves and the wind and just sort of seeing what it's all like there if you haven't been in this water. But unfortunately, at 2 p.m. on Saturday, it's high tide, like literally high tide within 7 minutes from 2 p.m. I think it's at 1:53. And then on Sunday morning, right when we start at 6:50, it's low tide. So we are going to be practicing in slightly opposite situations tidal-wise. which just means that on race day, you're going to be running a little bit further through ankle deep water until you get out to the deep water to start swimming. So it's going to look a little bit different on race day, but fingers crossed that the winds stay calm and that we get the whole 750 swim for the sprinters and the whole 1500 swim for the adults. On Saturday at our swim, I encourage you to swim as much or as little as you want to. There's no rules, there's no nothing. Bring a bright colored swim cap. If the weather is nice, if it's decent and not super crazy winds, the buoys will be out already. The race buoys will be out, which make it really nice to be able to see like what it's going to look like the next morning during the swim. So another good opportunity to practice is to check out that actual race course. After you do a little swim there, either go do your check-in or immediately get out of there. Get off your feet and spend the rest of Saturday taking care of yourself, have an early dinner, of course, continue to hydrate, set out all of your stuff for the next day, make sure that you have all your gear and ready to go. And then you want to do what we call your pre-race timeline. And your timeline that you want to write up sort of starts with what time you're going into the water. And then you're just going to continually move backwards in timeline things that you need to get done all the way to figuring out what time your alarm needs to be set. So we don't just want to arbitrarily throw out like, hey, I'm going to have my alarm go off at 4:30, but then you haven't calculated that you need 30 minutes to, get up, get dressed, make coffee, eat breakfast. You need another 30 minutes to drive to the race site. You need another 30 minutes to do warm up. And suddenly, like, you're out of time and you're rushing to the race site. So sort of put together your timeline that goes backwards from your race start time and make sure that you have enough time to do all of your things. And then finally, before you go to bed, don't forget to set your alarm for race morning based on what time that you set for with your timeline. All right, so Sunday, you're going to be up nice and early, and I want to share screen. Oh, no, I want to share my screen. All right, so here we go. Here is the North Shore Aquatic Complex right here. Here's where the pool is, where the meek and mighty athletes are going to be racing. And then you've got this beautiful white beach that's just along the edge. And of course, the amount of sand that's there is dependent on what the tide is doing, whether it's high or low. So that's going to look different between Saturday and Sunday. The race start is way up here on the north end of North Shore Park, where the sand sort of meanders off again. You can tell that it's pretty shallow, and you're going to run into the water here through this low sand. Again, I mentioned you're going to be in ankle deep water, and then you're going to get out into this deeper water, and you're going to parallel down along the edge of North Shore Beach to a buoy that's right about, somewhere here in the water. And then the sprinters are going to turn around that buoy and they're going to angle back in to the beach around here. That's the 750. Hopefully, those of us that are doing the 1500 will continue on past and then swim out and around Vinoy Park and come in on this side of transition area. Transition area is right here on this big green field that is sort of full of dirt. So if you're somebody that likes to make sure that your shoes are clean when you put them on, you might want to bring a towel or maybe some water to wash your feet off in transition. So going back to this 750-meter sprint swim, when you parallel shore, you're going to be breathing. If you're breathing to the right side, you're going to be looking at the beach, which is great. You're going to keep the buoys on your right shoulder, which is really good here. You're going to stay on the outside of the buoys. You're going to get to the final buoy, and then you're going to turn back into shore. Now, what that means is that you have what we've measured as about a half-mile run to get into transition. So let me zoom in here, and you're going to see this ramp right here is where you're going to run up out of the water and onto the sidewalk right here next to the parking lot. Somewhere right here in this area on the greenery, on the grass, I am going to put the slap flag into the ground. I'm going to hammer the post into the ground, and the slap flag is going to be sitting there from before all of the race starts. And if you choose, which I highly recommend, to bring an extra pair of running shoes for the half mile on the hard concrete, you have to run along this pathway, along the North Shore pool, past the playground, past the slap tents, which are going to be set up right here at this corner under these palm trees somewhere, past this expo area, which is where the award ceremony is, all the way around the transition area. All of the 3,000 bikes are in this big field here. You continue running on the path all the way around to this back side before you enter transition. I've measured it. It's about 800 meters, aka a half mile. So the slap flag is going to be stuck into the ground right here. And if you choose to leave an extra pair of sneakers to put on when you get out of the water, set those next to the slap flag. It's going to help you locate where your shoes are and make it super quick. Fun fact, the longer that you keep your wetsuit on when you get out of the water, the more water runs out of it and the harder it is to get off. Basically, it suctions to you as the water runs out the bottom of your wetsuit. So let's think about this. Do I want to run a half mile in my wetsuit? Absolutely not. For number one, it's already hot out there, and you don't need to get any hotter. So as soon as you come up out of the water and onto North Shore Beach and onto the pavement, run on over to where the slap flag is and take your wetsuit all the way off. You cannot discard it there. Let me be clear. You can't just take your wetsuit off and leave it at the slap flag. We are not responsible for it, and that's discarding your race equipment. But get out of your wetsuit, put on your sneakers if you chose to leave them there, throw your wetsuit around your neck, and then proceed to quickly run that half mile with the protection of your feet inside your sneakers. All right. Some years when the weather is bad and the conditions are rough in the water, the Olympic distance athletes will also be required to only swim the 750. So myself racing the Olympic, I'm going to be prepared, and I'm going to have an extra set of shoes just in case they cut our swim down. But since I'm a swimmer and you guys all know this, I have all of my fingers and toes crossed that we're going to swim all the way over to the other side of Vinoy Park and get our full swim in. Going back to the timeline, here we go on screen. The Olympic swim waves will start at 6:50 on Sunday morning, and that'll include Coach Todd's son, Drew Schellenberger, racing as one of the pro men. And then 3 minutes later at 6:53, we'll have Coach Jody go into the water with the pro women's field, and they'll start. And then 7 minutes later, the open age group male and females will be starting, and there's a handful of slappers in that wave. Myself, Casey, Jesse, Holly, and also Julian, one of our HPS athletes that's doing his first Olympic, are going to be racing in that open age group wave. A couple minutes after that, about 8 minutes later, all of the age group Olympic athletes are going to have a time trial rolling start. And on the edge of the beach, they're going to have some signs posted that have swim time. So under 20 minutes, 20 minutes to, 22 minutes, 22 to 24 minutes, however they divide it up, you're going to stand in the time section that you think is your guesstimated swim time. All right. And then again, I always recommend that everybody scooch up maybe 1 or 2 swim times from where they think they're going to be, because that's what everybody does. And you don't want to get stuck behind people that are a lot slower than you. So you're going to want to line up in your predicted swim time minus a couple minutes, and then they'll send you into the water. Very similar to any 70.3 or Ironman event that you've done or seen. Now, that's going to go from about 7 to 8 o'clock until they get all those athletes into the water. Then they're going to take a break. And then they're going to start the sprints. And this is, I believe, a guesstimated time is at 8:25/8:30. Now, what are our sprinters going to do from the fact that transition closes at 6:45 in the morning? And what are they supposed to do until 8:30 in the morning when their race starts? Well, good news. We have set up, or we will set up, the slap team tent right over here. So transition area is right here in Vinoy Park. This is the pathway to get to the swim start. And the team tents are always going to be right over here along the water's edge, underneath some of these palm trees, hopefully trying to find some shade for our post-race party later on. The cool thing about this position is that you get this great water view right across the water of the athletes in the water. And if we do the 750 in the Olympic, we'll be turning around the buoy right here, swimming into shore, and then we'll be running past the team tents where you can cheer. If we are doing the full 1500-meter swim, we're going to swim by you, and we'd love to see all of the sprinters hanging out under the team tent. I'll have at minimum 12 chairs there. I'll have the nice carpet down on the ground so you guys can just hang out and relax for that almost 2-hour time frame until you get in the water. Make sure that you have a snack and a second, water bottle that you can be drinking there before the race starts. All right. So that's our morning timeline. The sprinters, very similar, will go into the water in a rolling start. They will have those signs up that sort of give you your estimated swim time so that you know where to stand. All right. So now the race has started. Let's talk about race day stuff real quick here. I've got a couple more minutes. I was going to scroll down to the maps here and go over those. Those are Meek and Mighty. Those are the kids. As you can see, this is the sprint swim course where you have to run along the edge. The slap team tent is right here at this corner where that runner is. This is the sprint bike. You have a couple turns on your course, and then you come back in 12 miles. And here's the sprint run. The sprint run and the sprint bike, something I really want to address, they are on the course of the Olympic distance. So when you're out on the sprint bike course up here and you get to the turnaround, you need to make sure that you see the sprint turn here sign. Because if you're just riding along with other riders on the course and you continue going straight, you're going to wind up doing 25 miles on the Olympic course. And hey, more miles, more fun, but you're not on the sprint course. So you're going to be looking for a sign that says sprint turn here on the bike course, and definitely same for the run, which the further into the race, the more mixed in with the Olympic athletes you're going to get. At this turnaround, there's going to be a big sign that says sprint turn here, and you need to head back to get your 5K. Those of you in the Olympic, you're going to see that sprint turnaround sign and you're going to go, gosh darn it, I still have to keep running for another 1.5 miles until I get to the 10K turnaround. So down here, this is what the Olympic swim course looks like. Remember, as I mentioned, the sprinters are going to turn back into shore here at this red buoy, and the Olympic athletes are going to do a little extra swimming until they come into the other side of Vinoy Park. Olympic distance bike goes a little bit further than the sprinters. We end up riding through the golf course, which is where they provide water and Gatorade on the bike course. Heads up, if you have never, ever, ever practiced grabbing a water bottle while riding your bike, Sunday at St. Anthony's is not the time to start. This is only an Olympic distance bike course. That's 25 miles. You should easily be able to carry 1 or 2 bottles on your bike and not need to grab from that aid station. However, if you dropped a bottle, then use a lot of caution and be very slow and careful. Maybe even put your foot down, get off your bike when you grab a water bottle if you've never done it before. If you're experienced and you've grabbed water bottles left and right, then you totally can do that along the way. All right, here is the 10K run. Of course, we saw earlier that the sprinters are turning around right here at this corner for their 5K, and we're going to run all the way out onto Snell Island and a couple more miles before we turn around. Good news is you can see that there are a lot of water stations. You're hitting these water stations in both directions. They provide a ton of stuff, and a lot of the houses and families that live along this course, since St. Anthony's is, 40 years old of racing, a lot of the families know about it. They get out here and they cheer. Some of them turn their hoses and sprinklers on and ask you if you want to be sprayed by water in order to cool off, which is something that you really, really, really want to take advantage of. So Jesse lives over in the area. He trains at the North Shore Pool, and he's told me that over here on Snell Island, they've just repaved the road that we're running on. So what we're looking at right here is going to be fresh blacktop, fresh pavement, which we know is going to be super hot once the sun starts shining a little bit later in the day. So not only are we taking advantage of our water bottles on the bike and staying hydrated, but we're also going to make sure that we don't pass up an aid station out here on the run course, whether you're pouring water on your head, stuffing ice down your suit, taking sips of Gatorade. And I believe they mentioned that they have Morton gels out on the course. So plenty of opportunities to stay fueled, stay hydrated, but just be warned. We are looking at about 86 degrees as the high on race day. We know it's going to be sunny because we live in the Sunshine State. And then we're also going to be running on blacktop out here. So it's going to be warm. And right now, you need to start coming up with a mental plan of how are you going to be prepared for this? Well, we talked about it. We're going to start hydrating on Friday all through Saturday and really make sure that we're staying as cool as possible on race day with water and other stuff. Let me get back to my notes here. At the finish, we'll be there celebrating. I mentioned that the Slap Team tent is where you can leave your race bags and all of your extra stuff, change of clothes, and that's not going to be far. The finish line is right over here next to the baseball field in this parking lot. You're just going to have an awesome, oh, I believe it's in this one right here. You're going to have a great finish. And then you're going to hit that post-race food tent, get yourself a Coke, some pizza, and then come on over to the slap area to celebrate. Or hang around the finish line because your other teammates are finishing as well. So lots of things to do on that day. I mentioned earlier, don't rip off your wristband because a couple hours later, they're going to open transition and allow you to get your bike out. All right. Timeline for race day, I believe they have the pro awards are somewhere around 11 o'clock. And then I did read that they're not giving age group awards. They just have a table that if you know you won an award, you can head over and pick up your award, which is a little wonky, but we'll take it. Bring your award over to the Slap Team 10 and we will celebrate you as if you were standing on an awards podium and take photos. I'll be out there during the race, I'll be in the race, and then after, of course, I'll be hanging out cheering everybody on. In the meantime, between now and then, if you guys have any questions or any concerns about race day, don't hesitate to ask. We've got a ton of coaches on the SLAP staff that have done the race. I know Coach Todd is racing, Coach Jody's racing. Amanda is going to be at the event as well, so she'll be out there snapping photos and cheering for everybody. Is Coach Melissa racing? No, no Coach Melissa. But we'll have plenty of coaches and staff and tons of slappers. I'm so excited to get this season rolling with a huge race. And if you haven't done St. Anthony's, you guys are gonna love it. And with that, I'm gonna end this recording and wish you guys all the best of luck. Let's go slappers, and I'll see you at Winning Wednesday. Take care, you guys.